Hey guys, I'm not sure if anybody's on, but nobody wants to be the person that follows Kay Ahern. But I appreciate anybody that's joining and see if anybody can hear me. Okay, somebody can hear me. Well, perfect. Well, I appreciate you guys coming to this session. What we're going to talk about today is kind of an intro to CoughDrop and how it can help you with modeling. If you joined my session yesterday about intro to CoughDrop, it's actually going to be a lot of the same thing. So you may want to jump over to another session, but there's also going to be some things that are new also. But it's going to be kind of my personal story of my family and how we are modeling with CoughDrop. But I'm going to actually share my screen here. And give you a quick background of CoughDrop itself. Okay, so you saw Brian earlier around, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about him and then how I joined. But Brian is the founder of CoughDrop, and out of school, and he went to Brigham Young University, and he graduated in computer sciences, human interaction, some big long computery term. But out of school, he created a company called Instructure, which created a learning management system called Canvas, which he had some issues with their learning management system there, which was called Blackboard. He thought that it was pretty clunky and that he could do some things differently. And so he created in school, as part of a project, he created something called Canvas. And actually it did very well, and they made it into a company, and it's now used by universities and school districts across the country, and actually across the world, and it employs thousands of people. And so it was a very good, it was a very successful college project, we'll put it that way. But after they went public, he wasn't needed there day to day anymore, and he was trying to look at some other things that he could do. And at the same time, that's his daughter. She has Rett syndrome, and they were just getting into AAC, noticing that she wanted to communicate. And so he started to look at some of the different devices and things, and he had some of the same issues where he thought that there was some clunkiness to some of these devices that he was using, and he thought, I bet there's some better ways that we could make it accessible and be able to use the cloud and be able to use the internet and make any changes on your laptop and let it just sync to your device and things like that. So he created what's CoughDrop, and we'll take a look at that, and some of the the abilities that we'll be able to use. And then I'm the other guy there. I'm also a father of a AAC user. Several years ago, my school district gave us an iPad and said, we think this will help your son. He's autistic, nonverbal, and they said we hear AAC is good, but that was right when iPads were new. They didn't know much about it, and just said, go out and let us know how AAC works. So we didn't know much about it, so we just went in and I was pretty confused myself, and I just deleted all the pictures and put in pictures of his foods and his families and his toys and things, and that's how we got started. So not really the best way, but it did help cut down on a lot of his frustrations, and he was able to at least show us what he needed. But his biggest issues, or our biggest issues, was that when he gets really happy, he throws his iPad around, and he would break his iPad. And then he would come up to us, and he'd hand me my Android phone, or he'd hand me my wife's Kindle, or my daughter's Chromebook, or all these other things, and want to continue to communicate, and he couldn't do it. He didn't know why. And I didn't know why, because I was in the tech industry and I was used to the cloud, where you could just grab whatever device you wanted to and just continue to work on whatever you wanted to. And so it was really frustrating to me. And so I started to look and see what was out there. And I was actually surprised that nothing used the cloud technology to where, you could just grab whatever device you wanted to and pull up your boards. Because coming from that industry, I just thought that's the way it should be, right? Just grab your device and have your ability to communicate. But I guess it's a little unique in this industry. So the only one I could find was CoughDrop that Brian was putting together. So we became a beta tester for him and liked it so much that I joined the team. So the team at the time was him, and so it was him and me. And that was a couple of years ago, and we've now grown. We've doubled since then, and there's 4 of us. So that's the quick intro of CoughDrop. But so we're parents of AAC users, and but you'll see a lot of what goes into making CoughDrop being from the tech side of it, the cloud side, because that's where our expertise is. But what we are not, and what we realize we aren't, is we are not we are not a speech paths. We're not OTs, and so we rely heavily upon the professional community to help us put together the app itself. So we reached out to about 50 different speech paths and OTs and things across the world and said, what would you like to see in AAC? What do you like now? What do you not like? And there's several things that we heard, but one of the biggest things that we heard was, why is it all stuck on a device? What happens if my child leaves his device at home, or the battery dies? Why can't I just grab another device? The other one was, there's so many good AAC apps and devices out there, but it's not going to work unless you have a strong team built around that communicator. And so as we put this together, we wanted to see what we could do to make the team stronger. One of those things was modeling. And so we're going to show you some of the things that we put together to help with the modeling. Here's a slide that I grabbed actually from Rachel Langley. She actually put a presentation together yesterday that was pretty impressive. But many of you have probably seen this before. But it basically says that by 18 months, a baby has heard 4,380 hours of spoken language. Right? But yeah, we don't expect them to be fluent speakers. And yet somebody with an AAC device, we want them to understand how to use this talker after just having it and using it without people modeling. We show them how to use it, and we come in and have the speech path use it with them once a week, and we're wondering why they've never pick up on it. And we don't understand why. And well, obviously that's not going to work if they're only getting this working with them once a week. So so we put in some tools and things into CoughDrop that help you. Well, let me actually just jump into the app itself and show you some of the reports and the data and the modeling and things that can help you. Okay, so if you have not had an opportunity to use CoughDrop, let me make this a little bit bigger for you. This is it. Anybody can go into CoughDrop, to mycoughdrop.com, and sign up for a 2-month trial for free. Try it out, and they'll sign up and they can try out any of our boards. We've got everything from a very large robust board, which is 112 buttons. Everything is 1 or 2 button clicks away. 1, 2. And it can go into further buttons. And I didn't put any child's voices and things like that, but we do have those. We have got the smaller boards, everything down to a small 24 button board. You can make your own boards, or you can even put in your own pictures. And so when I made Adam's board, I just transferred it across from the horrible boards I made originally with the original app that we made, because I didn't want to shock him when I moved him over to CoughDrop. But what I did want to do was be able to use it across all devices, because the biggest issue I had was when he broke his iPad and him coming up to me with my Android phone and my Kindle. I didn't want that to ever happen again, of him not being able to speak to me, to him not being able to communicate to me. So now if he breaks his iPad, I can just grab my Android phone and pull up his app, or grab a new tablet and pull up his username and password, let it sync, and he's ready to go. Why this is important, back to the modeling, is we used to, when we would teach him, we used to have just his iPad, and we would say, okay, here's your foods, or here's whatever we're teaching you today. Let me show you these particular buttons. And then we would just pull it out and have him, or we'd say, okay, push these buttons, and want to know why he wasn't learning these things. But now he has his iPad, my wife has her Kindle, my daughter has her phone, I've got my Android, and we all sit around the table and we all have his exact same boards on our devices. And we've made it a family rule that at dinner, we all speak with our devices. We all model with him with his exact same boards. Yeah, and it all automatically updates because it's saved in the cloud. So, so basically, he can use it offline just fine. But if I go in and make a change, or I add some words to his boards, it won't affect his boards until he's near Wi-Fi again, and then it'll just save to his device when he's near Wi-Fi again. Which is another thing that was really important to me, because his teacher used to say, I need to make changes to his boards. I need to add words to his core boards and things like that. Can you leave his device with me overnight? And that was one of the biggest issues I had, was she was asking me to leave his voice at home, which is really hard to do. You know, I'm sorry, I need to add some new words, but I don't have time to do it. Can you leave? Can you not communicate tonight while I add some words? Whereas now she can go in and make whatever changes she needs to from her own device, and then while he's riding home on the bus, and she can do it from her laptop. She doesn't even have to have an iPad or anything, because it's also available, just like you're looking at here. It's also available on your browser. So she does it from her laptop while he's riding home on the bus. The next time he's near Wi-Fi again, it just syncs all of those changes, and she's never taken his voice away. So that's very important to me as a parent, to never lose his voice again. If he breaks his device, we just grab one of our devices. If a school district won't let him take his device home, well, mom and dad should have something at home these days. Most moms and dads have something else at home, and they can have the exact same boards at home that they've got at school. So the communication can continue at home with whatever they've set up at school. So that was very important to us, of not losing any of the communication that's been going on at school, that it just continues directly on, right at all throughout the day. The other important thing to me was that we knew who was modeling and who was speaking, or if he was speaking and who was modeling, because what we have is reports and data. And so I needed to know if he was the one saying the words, or if somebody else was the one saying the words, because I needed to know what was correct, what was going on. And so if somebody else is using their device, then we know that that's being modeled. And so what we've added in is a whole modeling report to our report page. We've only had this the past couple months, but we wanted to actually prove that the more somebody models with somebody, the more they're going to be able to, the more success that this kiddo is going to have over time. And what you're going to see if somebody does it correct is that you're going to start out with a ton of modeling with very little actual with very little speech on the communicator side. But then over time, you'll see less and less modeling and more speech on the communicator side. But we didn't have a way to track that until the past couple of months, when we've put that in. And so there's 3 ways that you can actually now track that. You can track that by having your own device as a communicator. As a supervisor. So what we've done is, you've got the communicator account, which would be my son. He doesn't really look like that. And we've set up supervisors for him. We give everybody a free username and password that's a supervisor. So this is his teachers, his speech paths, and his aides, and his parents. Anyone that we want to model with him, we give them free usernames and passwords. We have 2 different types of usernames even. We have some that can edit and some that cannot. We also call this the grandma-grandpa account. We want them to be able to model with him, but not to be able to mess up any of his boards. So you can add these supervisors, let them make any change, or if it's a teacher or somebody, you can let them make changes. If it's not, then you don't let them make changes. If they don't have an existing account, then you can add them right here and give them a free username and give them a random password, and they can change it at a later time. But we want to build a very strong team around this communicator. And what we found is the more if we charged each person to become a modeler for this student, we're not going to have a very strong team built around this communicator. So all of these people have free logins. Yeah, grandma, grandpa account, or even sometimes a lot of parents. So we definitely want a modeling. Even if it's only 1 or 2 words, because they're not going to know where his words are. So we do have the whole find a button. So if he wants to go in there and grandma and grandpa aren't going to know where pizza is, so they can go in and type in pizza. You get there through eat. There's pizza. So it's going to lead them to it. And you can even see here that it's got a little picture of a hand. That means that that's a modeling. So back to that data, we know who hit it. Grandma and grandpa hit that one. And so we'll be able to parse out whether the child said it or the grandma and grandpa said it. If we're using it, occasionally you're not going to be able to have 2 different devices. You're only going to have the communicator's device. So there's a couple different ways that we've set it up to where you can still have the correct data. Number one, we've set it up in the preferences to where you can go in and put that anybody that hits with 2 fingers is a modeler, and then the communicator still hits with 1. But occasionally some communicators still drag their fingers and use 2 fingers, so that may not work. So you can also go in and triple click the exit button, and that will turn on and off the modeling. That'll turn on and off that little finger there. So if you only have their device, you can just go in before you're talking to them, triple click it, that little finger will come on, then you say what you want, then triple click it, and that'll go back off. So once again, that way, when you pull up the data for them, you're not going to have 100% clean data, but it'll still at least be better that you'll know that these words spoken by the kiddo, these words are actually theirs, and the modeling words were actually the modelers. The triple click doesn't work on the iPad, so we'll have to take a look at that because it should work on the little X on the exit button. So we'll have to do some. You'll have to reach out to us afterwards, and we'll do some digging into that one. But you can also see what words they use the most here. So as I mentioned, when I set up Adam's boards, we did 100% nouns. So we're still pretty heavily nouns because we only added core the past 6 months because my school district is really pushing back, and it's really bad when the parent is the one teaching the school district how to use core. That's one of the reasons why we're doing this free conference, is so that I can go back in and teach them how to do things correctly. So you can also pull up in your data. You can go up and pull up, core versus fringe. You can pull up parts of speech. You can even modify. If we've got what the core words are basically based off of practical, but you can always modify the list if you've got a different set of core words. You can see what time of day it's being used, which is important to me. This was another thing that I have. I can tell you, this is back to my personal experience. We had a teacher that we didn't think was ever using it. And this was back with our old app, and the only way I could tell if she was using it is if it would come home with like 50% battery. And so during one of our IEPs, we said, okay, we need him to come home and have a message in it that says what he did during the day. And so for the next 2 weeks, it would come home and say something like, I played on the slide with my friends and we drank Kool-Aid for lunch or whatever. But you got to remember that this is the kid that said stuff like Cheerios, please. So we knew it was wrong. So we added in this time of day so that we could see when things were actually being correct, were working. But what's great about this is everybody sees this time of day. And so it makes me, as a parent, try a little bit harder at night. So we've made, back to the whole modeling thing, this session can also be called, why is Scott a bad parent? Because usually when he comes home, we just say, okay, Adam knows his way around home. We don't really need to use the talker because he can just push his way around home, and we don't need to use it as much. And so now, because we have this, and I'm afraid that the speech path and the teacher are looking at it and going, oh my gosh, they don't use it at home. I'm actually start using it more. We're basically, if nothing else, we figure it as his homework. And so we still model with him, and we pull out his iPad and still model and use it in the evenings just because we know the other people are looking at it. We also do have a activation heat map where we can see where on the boards they're using it so that we can make sure the whole board is being accessed. So for Adam, for instance, he can hit the whole board. He doesn't have an issue with it, but we do work with eye trackers, eye gaze, things like that. And so if you had part of the board that's gray or white, or you can take a look at why is that? Is it like a wheelchair handle missing or blocking part of the board, or are they having issues crossing midline? Or is it just words they don't like broccoli? Is it something that you can work with or the OT can work with to help them access all of their boards? Or will they never be able to hit it? Because if they're never going to be able to access parts of their boards, then you can know to move all of the words to a different part of the board. So all of these are just different reports that we've added in. Basically that you guys have asked for, because once again, as I mentioned, we're parents of AAC users. And so we rely heavily upon you guys to say, what would be nice is this report, and this report. But what also makes it nice is if you do IEPs, you can actually go in and pull up a time frame, like 6 months ago compared to now, or a year ago compared to now, be able to show the growth over time. Instead of having to go in and pull up or take your book of the last year worth of data, you've got it all here and you can print it out, and you no longer have to just go through that book and see what you've done. You've got it all right here. You can set up goals for them as far as we've got it based off of Practical's year of core words. You can earn badges, or you can even set up goals as far as you can create a goal like they want to use. Well, I'll skip that part, but you can create a goal of they want to use so many words, like so many times a day. This word, you can run, jump, and in for 3 times a day for the next 5 weeks. Whatever you want to do, and it'll track it, and it'll make sure that you're using that. And then it will send you reports on those goals. And you can do it according to whatever you've set up in your IEPs, or you could even do this just on a weekly basis. So all of these things will help you with your students, especially if you've got like a year of core words. You could start setting it up that way. Of we want to make sure that we're modeling with them with that many with those particular words. We want them to use these words this many times a week. We had a question and it disappeared, but something about tenses. So if I want like, I can use my inflections like ing or liker. Whoops, I guess I probably should have used a different, but the inflections is where you can likes, like, or liking. I don't remember what the question was on it though. You'll have to re-ask it again. This is off topic, but when you were discussing core words, I thought about sentences we might say something like, we can't ride bikes because it's raining. How would you deal with tenses and plural words? Oh, there you go. So, oh, it's right here. So any board I'm on. So if I'm in any board, I've got a little sidebar, and you can put whatever boards you want into it. So I keep my keyboard right there and a yes or no, but I've always got my inflections right there too. So anything I say, eat, let's see, eat. Eater, and things like that. So we can collect data from subscribers as a we collect anonymized data as a whole, but they basically have to opt into that one. So all of these reports are turned off for privacy reasons, and everybody has to turn it on to for all of these things. For HIPAA reasons, all reports are turned off. So when you first log into CoughDrop, it walks you through a lot of things, talking about different boards, talking about, well, let me just go to it. Using CoughDrop. This is how you use CoughDrop. Whoops. Picking a home board. So it tells you about core, because a lot of people don't even know about core and why it's important. It asks you where you want the pictures. Do you need the scanning set up? Do you need the iDwell? And then it walks you through setting up scanning as a switch, or with the eye tracking, or just touching. And then what type of board you want. What voices you want, and then whether you want to be able to have logging, if you want to enable it or not. So everything's turned off on purpose, and whether you want to add supervisors. So that's one thing you can't do, is you as a supervisor, you can't just say, oh, I know this student has CoughDrop, I'm just going to add myself as a supervisor. For privacy reasons, it has to be done from the account owner's name. They have to go in and add you as a supervisor. I mean, most likely you're the one that's going to be doing it, but it still has to be done from their account. So I found that we can lock on a board if we want to stay on that board, but we seem to have issues with the sideboard when we lock on the board, so we can't use inflections. Really? I'll have to play with that one because I'm let me get out of here because I'm locked when we set this up back when in the PEX days, and then I added Adam's core. I added it to where it now locks into core, but I can still use my sidebar. So we'll have to play with that with Amanda. Not tense. Liked. I guess it would just depend on what you're asking on the tense. Are you asking if we're tracking the tense? Because we probably don't have that in the actual, if they, we don't actually have a lot of, actually I know we don't have the, also E became 8. I bet we don't have that. Well, let me try it. Yeah, we'll have to play with that. There's, well, let me go back. I think we just have 8 right here. Eat an 8 and drink on the boards. Well, I don't have drink. I have drunk. So I would have to play with that one. But if you have some ideas on, because yeah, oh yeah, drink. There you go. It does work. I just did drink, and then I did the ED, and it changed it to drink instead of drinked. So if you choose the little down arrow on the top right and choose stay on this board, then the sidebar won't work. Okay. Okay, so we'll have to play with that one. That may be a bug. So the icons with the dark corners have other variations. Yeah, the icons, this is where everything's 1 or 2 button clicks away. The icons with the dark corners lead into other things. So like go goes into places that you're going to go, my room and all of that. It's kind of like a folders button. Drink corner equals change page. Yeah. So, but yeah, drink. We now can confirm that the inflections will change drink to drink. So there you go. One I've never actually played with. This is our core 112. This one's that's our most robust core board. This one's gonna be similar. Oh, that is our inflections board. You probably have a different version of it because I didn't like all the pictures, so I put in the S and things like that. You probably have, the one you have probably has like the actual symbols of things that didn't make any sense to me, but I can actually send you this one because I liked this with the ER and the EST better than the actual symbols of circles and things. So that's the other thing about CoughDrop is once you make a page, if you think somebody else will like it, all you do is you just share it with someone. So if I make a page that I think someone's going to like. Well, let me go to a better one. Well, that one's not mine. I got to go to one that I actually own. If for some reason you want the worst board ever, you all want this PEX board, I could share it with any of your usernames. Or if I have a client, anybody on my clientele list, I can just share it with them immediately. And I can decide whether I want to just give you a version that you can't change and then you can copy it, or one that you can work on. This is from my days at Google, like Google Docs, basically where if you're working on a Google Doc and you want to be able to send it to somebody, you just share it to them, and they can you can share it to them to where they can just look at it with no editing privileges, or you can share it to them where they can work on it the same way. It's the same way with anything with CoughDrop. Anything you make, if you make a page for a client and you think another client's going to want it, if for some reason one of your clients likes all crunchy carbs, just like my son, then you could just share it with their username. Or if you've got another colleague that you've made a board that you think somebody else is going to like, you just share it to their username. So you're no longer having to go to each of their devices and recreate that board. Makes it a lot more simple, at least for me. Of course, I'm a little biased. Trying to hurry. I think we can go a little bit over time, but we probably need to get back on track a little bit. But one thing I do want to show you, if you've got several different clients that have CoughDrop, instead of going right into speak mode, like what happened, my son on his version of CoughDrop, he goes right into speak mode. But if I'm a clinician or a teacher, I would have all of my students, I'd come into a dashboard of all of my students here. So if I only see them like once a week or once every 2 weeks, I'm not going to remember what their boards look like, but I can just click on whoever I'm working with and start working with them immediately. And so I don't have to say, well, I don't remember what your boards look like. Sit over in the corner while I start looking at your boards. I can start modeling with them immediately. And then I start working with client number 2. All I have to do is switch communicators. And I just say, okay, now I'm going to work with this lesson picks guy. And his boards come up immediately. And I start modeling with him. And you're seeing, you're seeing it from my webpage, but this is the exact same thing that would come up on your iPad or your Chromebook or whatever you're using. But our biggest goal is a lot of these school districts are a one-to-one iPad school district or a one-to-one Chromebook school district or whatever they are. But we want mom and dad to model because we know that's very important. That's how it's going to work. And we don't want mom and dad to have to go out and purchase whatever device the school district has to be able to model. And so the fact that they can pull up the exact same boards with whatever they have at home is very important to us. We want whatever the school provides for the kiddo, we want mom and dad to grab their Kindle or to grab their phone, their Android phone or their iPad or whatever and start modeling. Assign them homework. This is your homework tonight. We want you to work on I and in and up and out. Those are your 4 words or whatever. This is your homework for the week. And we want you to do it from your own device and work on it every night for an hour. And the fact that they will have this on their own device, and be modeling back and forth with their kiddos is going to mean a lot. And then the teacher can put this up on their smart board because this is web-based. So the kid is going to be immersed, just like we were talking about in several different. I've heard this in several of the different the different presentations, like the different languages. You're going to be immersed throughout the day of whatever the boards are. They can put it up on the smart board and be using these exact same boards and having the whole class go up and use these boards. I think I've gone over time, and we probably want to get back on schedule. So do you guys have any questions or anything you want to see? Depends on the parent. Most parents that I've found, should a parent be an admin or a school person? So 80% of the parents just want the teachers and the speech paths and things to be the one that tells them what to do. And so I would say in that case, let them be the grandma grandpa account, where you just say, we want you to model with them, and that's it. But I would still give them a modeling account, just so you know that they're the ones touching it. But there are some parents that want to be involved and make their own little page. I would teach them about Fringe and let them make their own family page and things like that, but not mess up the core board. Show them how to do it and give them their own little Fringe area. But yeah, I, as a parent, do all the work on the app. Yeah, so do I, because my school district is pretty horrible. But but there you go. Steve's telling us to get off because I've gone over time. But yeah, most parents aren't involved, which, I don't know if that's good or bad, but it depends on the parent. But we didn't. There was an awful lot that I'd be happy to show you. We do in services for school districts, or we can even do one-on-ones and things like that. If you're ever interested, I'll even put my contact info in here, Scot at mycoughdrop.com. So if you ever do in services for your team and want us to do an intro to CoughDrop, we'd be happy to show you how to use it, because I only just showed you a few of the tools. But hopefully that gives you a better idea how the cloud makes it easier to work back and forth with the parents and the teachers and all of that, and be able to model. And feel free to ask me any questions or email me questions. We do give eval accounts, free eval accounts. So reach out to me there too, and I appreciate your time. And you guys all have a good one. Thanks for joining.